and all the she goats and all the speckled and spotted and all the everyone that he had, and some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them unto the hands of his sons. And that so all the solid ones went to Laban, all the speckled went to Jacob, and they separated them so they wouldn't intermingle and breed. And he set 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. So Jacob would take care of his flocks and his own. And Laban did not trust Jacob because he himself was untrustworthy. Usually you look in other people and you find faults in other people, the same faults that you have in yourself. That's how David showed in other people, seen in other people, same faults he had in himself. Any of us have that same thing. If you look at other people, the finger you're pointing at other people, how many you got pointing back at yourself? 3. You're just as guilty as they are of that same sin. So, if you look at other people as a sin, look at your own self. Amen. Then verse 37, 38. And Jacob took him rods of green people and popular and of hazel and chestnut tree, and piled the white stakes in them, and made the white appear, which was the rods. And he set the rods which he had and piled before the flocks, the gutters, in the water troughs, when the flocks came to drink, and they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth the cattle ring-straked, and speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-straked, and all the brown and flock of Laban he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. Verse 41. And it came to pass, whatsoever the stronger cattle did conceive, Jacob laid the rod before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, and they might conceive among the rods. And this verse 42 and 43. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in, so the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. This describes the methods used by Jacob to increase his own flocks, despite the handicap of working with solid and colored animals. Scholars disagree and do not agree on each of these things that he did, the materials and the stuff that they did in the ancient times with animal husbandry. That he increased the rate by which the animals made it. It was all, he stripped wood and put it down before them, when they drank and stuff, and make them go to heat and stuff like that, to have babies. It was crazy, but, it was all in the ancient times on what they tried to do. But God's the one that caused Jacob to increase because of his faith, and he wanted Jacob to get out of there. And so he made him to increase, to be able to get out of there. And that was the whole course of the action. And that when the animals were born and only encouraged and strong, be stronger ones to mate, therefore they increased the odds of greater herds and greater numbers of the spotted animals. You know, God is the one that brought the increase of the spotted animals, not anything that really that Jacob did or anything, but God did it. And we need to realize that it's not anything through our great wisdom that we do that brings us about to great things, that great things that we can do in our lives, but it is God that does it through our lives. Now, when somebody gets saved, that through our lives, it's God that does it, not us. The God that leads us to that person that does it. I remember a man years ago that God led me to that got saved and then led me to marrying him and another lady. And then now his daughter is getting married this August to a young man that finally straightened his life out and is becoming a police officer. It's awesome. You see how God works in lives and develops lives. And she is a beautiful young woman now. And she was just a 2-year-old years ago that I babysat. And, you know, you fall in love with people and you love on them. And God works through your life to be a blessing and try to help these people. And see how God works. Well, God did this through Jacob and blessed him and brought about fulfillment of increasing him and helping him to bring about many animals into his life and helping him to have be able to hire more men servants and maid servants to increase his flocks. And then you know, like we said, Lord provided all the increase. And he does the same thing in our lives. Any increase we get in our lives, the Lord provides, not of our own wisdom or greatness. It's all because of him. I'm here because of him. That I'm not here because of my own greatness, my own wisdom. That I can only teach because of him and what he has done through me. That's what it blows my mind. I have no ability whatsoever but what he has given me. And I pray every day for him to be able to use me to be a blessing to you. And that's what matters to me. This is my job for the Lord. This is what matters to me the most of all. To be a better husband, to be a better teacher, to be a better Christian, a better father, a better everything for the Lord, not for me, but for him, a warrior for him. And then in verse 30, our chapter 31 now, we get into Jacob's departure. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's. That which was our father's hath he gotten all of this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And the Lord said unto Jacob, Return the land of thy return unto the land of thy fathers and unto thy kindred, and I will be with thee. Now, so Laban's sons were looking around and seeing that Jacob had increased so much that he had a lot more than Laban had now. So he was figuring, they were figuring, hey, Jacob was taken from him. He was getting better than they were. So, hey, we need to have our dad take all that he got back. Now, so we could have more. They were getting greedy. Now, so we could have more of our inheritance from our dad. Now, isn't that humanistic? Isn't that how humans believe? Now, it's all me, 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 me. You know, I'm going to go take this from you because I deserve this, I deserve that. Just because Laban's my dad, I deserve it. You're just a whelp that came from somewhere else. Now, Laban's my dad, so I deserve everything that he got when he dies. That's how people look at it. You know, I remember when my dad died, everybody wanted the money, I tell you. And I didn't want anything, but only thing I cared about was some pictures that were on slides that he had from when he was in the military, and that's all I took. That and a glass with a picture of him on it and a flag. That's all I took. You know, just some remembrances of my dad. That, but everybody else took everything that they had in the house from him and my mom. But that's okay. I got my memories of them. And you know, the other kids, they can have all that stuff. I don't want material things. I want the heartfelt things of them. You know, I know that they were saved, and I'll see them again. And that's what matters. But I know some of my brothers and sisters aren't saved, and I won't see them in heaven. And I pray for them that they will get saved. And you know, I try to. When I haven't seen them for a while, but when you talk to them, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear about Jesus. And that, you know, they got a reprobate mind. And Jacob here is talking and is going to be dealing with Laban's sons and Laban himself. And Jacob has his wages changed many times over by Laban, trying to cause strife and stuff, trying to keep what Jacob's getting smaller. But, you know, Lord's the one that causes the increase, not Jacob or anybody. The Lord does it. And Jacob appears to his wife, and his wives are all four departing and ready to go. Now, so we see in verse 17 and 18, Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all of his cattle and his goods, and had gotten, and the cattle of his getting, and which he had gotten in Padaram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And in verses 19 through 21, and Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's, and Jacob stolen away unawares to Laban the Syrian, in that he told him that not that he would fled. So he fled all away with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face toward the Mount Gilead. So he was already 3 days away with all of his flocks and everything. So they passed over the river, and they were starting to go away, fleeing. That to get away from Laban. It's like I told you, it's like Velcro ripping away from the family. Yeah, Laban didn't want to let him go because he was getting free labor from him. So they departed in haste while Laban was busy shearing his sheep and stuff. And Jacob didn't know, but Rachel had taken his idols. Now, these idols were called terrapins, or images used in divination, which is associated with the inheritance and property rights of the owners. That I don't know how they were really used to confirm the property rights, but she had stolen them from Laban, which, to Laban, it was basically his false idol because he was more interested in property than God. He was more interested in what he had than God. Isn't that how people are today? More interested in their cars or their houses and their possessions than God? More interested in their careers than God? More interested in other things, their families, than God? Aren't they? We can all fall into those traps. We have to separate ourselves sometimes even from our family. To get away from traps like that, to pull ourselves unto closer to be with God. To fall instead of falling into those traps which pull us away from God at times. And so Jacob was doing this. God was trying to pull him away from this trap. Jacob from Laban and being pulled into Laban's trap here. So he wanted him to go back to Isaac, his area, to be with his fathers and all of his family there. So he leaves with all of his goods and everybody. And in verse 31, Jacob answered and said unto Laban, because Laban takes and flees after him, going after him because he thinks, he's taking everything. He's taking all my daughters, my grandsons, and everything of mine. Because, hey, they're mine. It's like I told you, it's like Velcro. Rip. Because Laban feels that it all belongs to him too. Taking all my grandsons and my daughters. That was the hardest thing for us when we left Utah. Because I felt a hard connection with my grandson and my granddaughter and my daughter. But I tell you, we had to peel away and come here. And we did. Because I feel a more connection with God. And we did it. But Jacob did it. And Jacob answered and said unto Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me, from whomsoever thou findest thy God, let him not live. Therefore, before our brethren discerneth thou what is thine with me, thou taketh to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban had caught up with them and said, who stole my idols and stuff? And he wanted them back. And Jacob said, okay, search everything, find it. And whoever took it, you can take it and kill him. So Laban went into Jacob's tents and into Leah's tent and into two maidservants' tents and found them not. Then he went unto Leah's tent and unto Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. Then she said unto her father, Let it not displease my lord, but I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he said, Searcheth, but not found the images. So I can't get up, Dad. I'm on my period. I've heard that before, that excuse many times. You know, if you had daughters, you'd know those excuses, Ben. And so she made an excuse, and her daddy, okay. He wouldn't force her to get up and look under her, because he's afraid of seeing blood and stuff and all that icky stuff. That's how guys are. So Rachel was guilty of a lie here, but she would be judged of God later on. That, because God doesn't allow us to get by with lies and stuff. He knows, and he works in our lives, and we need to confess those lies up to him. And they bring about trouble in our lives. And in the final section here, we see the heated discussion between Jacob and Laban, and Jacob rebukes Laban for his treatment of them. His unwanted punishment, or pursuit of Jacob, was some kind of thief. Now, his unfairness in dealing with him in the past. Jacob served him honestly and never taken any animals, always replacing lost or destroyed animals of his own flocks, lost sheep, and gone hungry and thirsty, and open in order and to do a good job. And it was not the fact that God had protected and blessed Jacob. Laban would have cheated him out of everything. God had told Laban, don't you touch a hair on his head. Man, I'll kill you. Yeah, so he'd warned him before he even caught up to him in a dream that you don't touch him or harm him. So here we see that when Laban did and couldn't find his idols or anything, he knew they'd had it, taken it, but he couldn't find them. So Laban answered in verse 43. There we are. I'm sorry. There you go. I'm a little slow today. I said everything that was on that. You just didn't listen to me. When I was in college, it was easier to write it off the screen than listen to the teacher. Because the teacher's so bad speaking. I get my rebuke. You guys got it? Okay. Now in verse 43, and Laban answered and said unto Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters or unto their children which they have borne. And then, now therefore, come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou. Let it be for a betwixt between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob told unto his brethren, gather stones, and they took stones and made the heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called Jerhegah, but Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore the name of it is called Gilead. And Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent from one another. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with thee or with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, behold, this is betwixt me and thee. A heap be witness, this pillar between witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and thou shalt not pass over this heap with this pillar and this pillar unto me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judged betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mountain, called his brethren to eat bread, and they did eat bread and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning, Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them, and Laban departed and returned unto his place. So we see here that Laban makes a weak defense. His daughters and the cattle were originally his, so he can legitimately lay claim to all that were Jacob's, that he had produced. It makes a hypocritical covenant that between him and Jacob. It was hypocritical because he's the one that was intent on harming Jacob. He was the one that forced Jacob to have two wives. So he's basically telling Jacob, don't you marry anybody else besides my daughters, But he's the one that forced him to marry his two daughters. Now, so it's hypocritical. And he was the one he agrees to the covenant rather than continue to expose his hypocrisy any further. And Laban leaves after kissing his children and goodbye, and the Bible never mentions Laban again after this. So we're done with Laban now. So it's all said and done with Laban. Jacob's free of him. The Velcro is ripped. It's free. So it was another trickster there. And the lessons we get here is put your whole life into God's hands. That we don't need to just put part of our lives. We need to put our whole life, everything. It's not, I keep finding things that I haven't put in God's hands of my life that he keeps revealing to me. I don't know about you, but I tell you, it's revealing at times. Some of the things that I've held back from him that I need to just release. And I have to turn to him and say, Lord, reveal to me those things. Yeah, in my prayer. And he does. And when I get quiet time to myself, I ask him those things. And it works. And then at times my wife tells me those things. And I just, he brings people into your life to tell you those things that you need to release and put into God's hands. And we need to trust God with them and never take them back. And just let God handle it. My wife has to realize to release our children into God's hands. That's the hardest thing. And trust God with them. Because he knows what he's doing. He knows how to handle each and every one of them in their weird personalities. Because, I have a weird personality myself. And he knows how to handle them and their weird personalities because it's made up of my weird personality and my wife's weird personality combined. And that makes it even weirder. So God works with it, and I thank God that he is almighty. And then don't let sin sneak in. Don't let sin sneak in, because, that's another thing. We allow sin to sneak into our lives. Find some bauble out there that we like, and we allow it to sneak in. That the world likes to sugarcoat some things. That when we were weak, that Satan likes to sugarcoat some doctrine or something, some false doctrine, and try to sneak it into our lives and say, oh, this is neat. This is something you didn't know. And I looked at it, and I was blind and I couldn't study very much at the time. And I was going, this just doesn't seem quite right. And finally, when I was able to study, this is wrong. This is false. And I was able to confront my friend about it. But he was so mad at me about it. He would not want to hear about it. And I could not force him to hear about it. So I just had to let it go. And another friend told me, don't just let it slide off your back and don't force it. Let the Lord deal with it. And so I am. So don't let sin sneak into your camp. That keep your guard up. Keep your in the Word. Keep your focus on the Lord. Keep praying to him and allowing him to work in your life. And then finally, realize that some people just don't get it. Some people just don't get it. You keep witnessing to them, and no matter how much you tell them and how much you warn them, they just don't get it. And they won't get it, try your best to help them to understand, and they will not understand. They don't care, or I don't know why, but they just don't get it. Sometimes I've had people come back to me and go, wow, I finally get it. I've had teenagers come back to me and go, wow, I finally get it, Brother Jeff. And you go, wow, you finally got it. It's like I got a V8. But those are the times when you praise God that they finally got it. But sometimes people just don't get it. And you just pray to the God that they'll finally get it. But sometimes people have a reprobate mind, and you keep praying and asking the Lord to straighten their minds out and help them to get their minds straightened out, that someday they'll get a shock to their system or something that'll do it. And with that, we'll end in prayer. Brother Jack, would you close us in prayer? Amen. Well, thank y'all for being here today. Love y'all. You doing okay, brother? I know. I kind of figured something was wrong there. Uh, yeah. I love you, baby. Uh,
Huh? You said open seating.